Let me know once you guys retweet the tweet in the.
I just retweeted it.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to episode 5 of C4S Villains. I am your host JB and I am here, of course, with my co-host Legendy Vash, and we are here once again by Chris Conkling from the Popaholics podcast. Chris, you are our first guest and our first returning guest. It is an honor to have you on the podcast, man.
It's an honor to be your first returning guest. I'm super excited to be back. Thank you guys so much for inviting me. And so soon to my first appearance as well. That's awesome.
Yes, we had an absolute blast, and I couldn't wait to have you back to talk about WandaVision episode 6 because there is so much to unpack in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Vash, thank you so much for joining me as always.
It's always a pleasure to come back here in return and talk about with you guys. So James, it's an honor as always, as I would like to state, as always from the beginning.
Yes, as we do every single episode, I just want to go real quick right off the top and want to know, what have you guys been watching since the last time we talked together on the podcast? So Chris, of course, I'll have you go first.
So I've been watching a couple things. The first of which is something new. Recently, Disney Plus released a new documentary under their Marvel banner called Behind the Mask. I don't know if you guys have heard of this.
I have.
It's basically a documentary focusing on the secret identity of superheroes and talking about how important identity is to Marvel Comics and inclusion is to Marvel Comics. I have to say, it's a really interesting watch. It's only about like an hour long. They focus on characters like Black Panther and Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel, and they talk a little bit about the Marvel strategy as far as creating characters and making them feel like fully fleshed out individuals. So I enjoyed watching it. I do have to say, while these documentaries are informative, and they really are kind of just like surface level information, there does typically come a point in time in the documentary where I feel like I'm being sold Marvel comic books. But
That's good.
But it's synergy, right? Like they're making the documentaries to inform people, but they also need to sell books. So I mean, I get it. I don't fault them for that. But overall, if you're a Marvel fan, I definitely recommend Behind the Mask. Have either of you seen this documentary yet?
I haven't seen it yet.
Not.
Yeah, like every time like I click on like Disney Plus, like it's always like up there as something recommended, but I haven't watched it yet. Much like most of the Mandalorian behind the scenes stuff, like I still need to put some time into that.
Yeah, that stuff's really cool too. Like I watched a lot of the first gallery season for Mandalorian. I kind of dropped off like before the last 2 episodes aired, but I love stuff like that, the behind the scenes footage.
Yeah. Vash, what have you been watching?
Well, last week I spoke that I finished Batman Beyond. I was last week when on the show, and not even last week, 2 weeks ago I was on the show, and I was about to finish. I was on season 2 or the beginning of season 3, and I finished Batman Beyond. So good, great nostalgia, such a good show. Still holds up with the message, the story, the animation still holds up. And then once I finished, like I want to watch something else DC, because I feel like watching something dub and watching something cartoon is just easy to cook and much easier to, instead of watching some anime or like a whole TV series, you gotta like pay attention. But instead of rewatching like old cartoon shows, you could like have in the corner, cook at the same time, but still know what's going on because it's just trying to refresh your memory. I was having a hard decision to choose Batman, the original animated series, or Justice League animated show. Not Unlimited, because I love that one, but the original one. So I was trying to decide which one. I put up the first episode of the Batman original, and it was Catwoman trying to go into a house and everything, and I was like, you know what? I'm not feeling it. So I'll go into Justice League, and I'm up to like 11 episodes now. So that was like a couple of days ago. So I'm really enjoying Justice League, the cartoon. They do a lot of comic book arcs, because they did World War already. They just did all about the Flash and plus Gorilla City. So they did a lot of 2 parts episodes telling like an arc of what happened in the comic books, but still good and interesting. It's very fascinating to know that the Lex Luthor we saw in Smallville played Wally West. So here, like when I was a kid, I did not put 2 and 2 together. I just watched Smallville and I just watched a cartoon. Now being much older, knowing that he was Lex Luthor, I'm like, he was really good as Wally West. Like he was good as the Flash. So it's really good to watch that. I was really entertained by that. So I hope to be done with this soon. So because something else got dropped this weekend, and that was Static Shock on HBO Max, and I really want to watch it because such a good show, and I just can't wait to hear that intro. And Static Shock has so many good messages, so I can't wait to binge watch that once I'm done with this.
Yeah,
dude, you're going through like the whole animated
correct.
DC
That's what I'm
catalog. I love it. I love it. It's so good. Some of the greatest cartoons ever made.
Well, it's not planned, but it's just been going, and I'm a big comic book nerd when it comes to cartoons and everything. So I just love watching them and everything. So they've been entertaining. I've been having a blast with them. So I'm really enjoying myself to sit back and feel like 6-8 years old watching a Saturday morning cartoon. So like, if you go to Pix 11, that's why like at 3-4 o'clock they show like this whole rundown and everything. I'm like, I could just sit here and just watch and not do nothing today. I wish I could, but it just feels so good to just sit back and watch these again.
Yeah, like I still haven't finished Batman Beyond yet. I actually put that on pause real quick because you started watching the Justice League animated series, and I'm like, well, I want to start it now. So I actually just finished catching up to Black Clover again. So I'm current with that again. And then I switched to Justice League, the animated series, and I loved that first couple of episodes. Like Martian Manhunter is really OP.
He
Like,
is OP.
Really OP when you really think about it. And I feel like he's never portrayed as powerful as he is in the beginning of the series throughout the rest of it. And I feel like his role just gets like less and less, even into Unlimited, if I'm being honest.
He becomes like management.
Yes.
Like, I need to go work in my cubicle now. I'll be over here managing where all the other superheroes are going. They really do kind of sideline him.
They really do sideline him, because I could remember that how James brought it up was like in the show Unlimited, he's literally just in the wash hour all the time and just helping all the heroes. Hey, you go there. Hey, you go there. You go downtown because there's a fire there. He literally just stays, and he's technically one of the most strongest OP character as Green Lantern, as Superman. But he's just treated as like the whole type of janitor role, just on the sideline.
If I'm remembering correctly, though, there is a point in Unlimited where he does finally leave the Watchtower. And because he's been sidelined for most of the series, I remember that moment being epic where you're like, he's coming back. Yes.
Such a good show.
Yeah, it's a really, really good show. And Vash, you tweeted out pretty much that you forgot how badass Hawkgirl is until you went back and saw the animated series. Because if you look at the Arrowverse, like their version of Hawkgirl and Hawkman are ridiculous, if I'm being honest. Like, they're absolutely terrible. Hawkgirl is only there to be a part of a love triangle for Vandal Savage and Hawkman. Really?
Bummer.
It's so stupid. She doesn't actually ever do anything, and I think the producers and the showrunners figured that out, and then they just removed them from the show, and we've never seen them again. It's like, all right, well, we did the worst job possible, like bringing these characters to life, so we're just gonna give up.
It's just, for me, no pun intended, but with the Arrowverse, it's like softcore of how they are, like about Hawkman and Hawkgirl, like softcore, but the actual characters are hardcore. Like the way she first fought the Green Lantern and everything, the first couple episodes, because they didn't agree with each other and everything, she was just swinging the whole axe and everything like it was nothing. She's just like, hey, we are warriors over there. I'm like, this is Hawkgirl, the one I grew up with. This is the one I know about in the comics. The one who's ruthless. The one that's a fighter. The one that's a warrior. Not like, cares about love and everything. She was a cop in her home. She was a warrior. Know about love and everything. Like, she didn't give an F about that. So, like, James, when he told me back in a group chat, like, damn, why you had to remind me about that character in Arrowverse? Like, she's beautiful. That actress beautiful. But the character she played is like, nah, that ain't you, girl. That ain't you.
I do
Yeah.
love the relationship between Jon Stewart and Shire
Yes.
over the course of Justice League, though. It makes the finale of Justice League that much more heartbreaking because you've
Oh yeah.
seen them fall in love and get close over the course of the series. So when they split, it's even spoilers. Sorry,
Oh, that
but
I
but when they
remember.
split, it's definitely heartbreaking,
Yeah. If you haven't seen it
and
at
all
this
from a
point, I don't
cartoon.
know what you're doing. Yeah. They did a really good job. Like that cartoon is amazing, and I can't wait to like go through the entire thing all the way up to Unlimited. And I actually want to rewatch some of the animated movies as well, because what's it called? The Justice Society World War II.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
coming
I
up.
cannot wait for that movie because that picks up right after Apocalypse War.
I still haven't seen it. You know that?
Bro, you have to see it. It's crazy. It is one of the craziest animated movies they've done.
I'm just
Like
waiting for them.
it's not like one of my favorites, but in terms of like what they've done in the movie, it's
It is.
nuts.
It's certainly crazy, James.
Yeah.
I will give the film that.
I'm just waiting for them to add the other films they're missing in the catalog on HBO Max, because I've just been this nice marathon in 2021 of all DC and Marvel cartoon shows, animated and everything. And what James said, yo guys, watch party on the whole C4S about a Discord, right? The watch party we can have, just watch those cartoons and just sit back and just have some popcorn, a little Saturday mornings, right? That's perfect.
That would be a lot of fun for us to do a watch party of one of these shows one of these days. But let's get into some news because we have a few news topics that I'm excited to talk about. The first one that I wanted to get into was the fact that Disney Plus surpassed 95 million subscribers, which is insane. When I was reading the article, they were hoping to get that in 4 years. Now,
Yeah.
of course, because of the pandemic, that helped a lot because people were looking for things to watch. But how do you guys feel about this news that Disney was able to pretty much achieve their 4-year goal in 1 year? Chris, I'll start with you.
It's honestly kind of shocking considering that there wasn't a whole lot to gain from Disney Plus for most of the pandemic. After the first season of Mandalorian ended, they were coming out with original content, but it wasn't like boom in your face like super popular Mandalorian season 1 level content, you know?
Yeah.
So most of the year was kind of a lull, and then as soon as Mandalorian season 2 hit, everyone was like, all right, I'm jumping back on the Disney Plus bandwagon. And then from there you also have the release of Soul in December, and then of course WandaVision here in January. So I feel like they're really gaining that momentum back now after experiencing a lull for most of the pandemic. So I mean, these numbers make sense to me, but it's astonishing that they were able to gain a large portion of those numbers in such a short period of time.
Yeah, it's nuts. Vash, what do you think?
It's the house. It's the house of the mouse. You can't, like, they make money all the time. They make almost 10 different ways of income. They have Marvel, Pixar, they have the parks, they have the toys, they have the stores of Disney. So they have so many ways to make money. And Disney Plus is just another avenue of how they make money. And how much they made in this past year is understandable. Like Chris said, a pandemic happened. You watch more anime, you watch more movies, you watch more HBO Max happened last year. So I'm curious to know how HBO Max numbers will be as well, because their numbers, they just started last year and Disney Plus started 2 years ago. So I'm curious to know how are their numbers doing? Are they increasing with this whole, instead of HBO Go, now it's HBO Max, did they increase a lot more subscribers, and their subscription is much higher as well. So are they making more money as well with all these new content, with Zack Snyder coming out next month and everything, with all these old cartoons classics that a lot of people are questioning, like, should I get this now? Static Shock and everything being added, so it's a lot of people curious to know and get to watch. So I'm curious to know those numbers as well. But Disney Plus making that much, not surprised at all.
Yeah, I did not expect them to hit this much in such a short period of time. Like, I definitely saw them doing it in like, it's definitely by the time Falcon and Winter Soldier popped up, like towards like the end of that series, I was like, all right, well, everyone's on the train because WandaVision was amazing.
Yeah.
Now we already know that Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to be great. So that's when I expected it. But already it's crazy to think about, but good for them. Like, I did the math and they're roughly making like 670 million Well, was it million or thousand? Sorry, it was 670,000 per year. Sorry, getting my math wrong, but which is absolutely insane just from Disney Plus. Like Vash already said, there's everything else. There's Hulu, there's ESPN Plus, Star Wars, all of these other different things that they're getting money from. So it's absolutely crazy to see that they're doing this well, but I'm not surprised. This is what we expected to see, but I didn't expect it this soon. Next news topic that I wanted to talk about was The Last of Us TV series. I have not played the games, but I have been like watching the gameplay a lot. I really, really like watching the gameplay. I don't know if it's a game that I myself want to play. Like, I'm weird. I like open world games, but I prefer like magic and like advanced weaponry and stuff. And I know you have to like pretty much like scrounge around for anything you can find in a zombie apocalypse. So it's something I would prefer to just watch gameplay of. But Pedro Pascal has been cast as Joel in the Last of Us series. I'm ecstatic about this news. Like, anything Pedro Pascal does, I'm going to watch it. He's an amazing actor. So what did you guys think about this casting news?
Well, like you, James, I also haven't played the games in full. I've only played the first portion of the original Last of Us game. But Christian, one of my co-hosts on the Popaholics, has played both games. So, you know, we've talked about it in length. And I think this is excellent casting. I think Pedro Pascal has proven that he can be an action hero, you know? So I think he'll do a good job in the role of Joel. And Bella Ramsey, I mean, from what I've seen of her on Game of Thrones, she's just a badass. It's weird to think. I went and I looked up like how old she was on Game of Thrones versus how old she is now, because I was like, isn't she a little young to be playing Ellie? No, she's like 17 years old now. So, but even when she was a little girl on Game of Thrones, like, she was a total badass. So I think this is like perfect casting for those characters.
So for myself as well, I have not played The Last of Us, so we are 3 out of 3
Look
here.
at us.
But I bought the game last year during the pandemic, and I bought many other games that still have not had the chance to play. But I'm happy about Pedro Pascal. He's been doing an amazing job in Mando, and to know that he got this other role lined up. For example, we know that Mando's not gonna come out for another time, so he has spare time to shoot this Last of Us TV series. So I'm happy for him. Make this bread, make this money, my guy. And hey, now you have a whole show that you can actually show your face this time now, instead of hiding it. So, you know, you can have your face on all the covers now, actually. So this is pretty awesome for him.
I actually heard he's going to grow a beard that just covers his entire face. So we're still, still not going to see.
Yes, Brees, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I haven't played the games yet. I will at some point, but I much prefer watching the gameplay for something like this. I am very excited for this series. I think The Last of Us is definitely something that would work better as a series than a movie, which is something we'll be talking about a little bit later on. But I'm really glad that studios are finally realizing that long form storytelling for most things is where it's at. Yeah. Like, you cannot tell these stories in 90 minutes. It just doesn't work. Like we talked about before, this is why Tomb Raider didn't work. This is why so many of these video game movies don't work, because you can't do character introductions, introduce the world, a villain, and all of these different stuff that people played hours and hours to care about in 90 minutes. It just doesn't work. So very excited for this series.
Which one do you think will come out first? The Last of Us TV series or Uncharted?
The film?
Yeah, the film, or
I think the film will, because it's currently in production if it hasn't already wrapped.
Yeah.
So I definitely think Uncharted's going to come out first.
Yeah, and I hope it does well. But again, like we talked about last week, like, I think Uncharted would have been a better series than a movie.
Oh, hell yeah.
Definitely.
But hopefully it works out. I think Tom Holland's great. I think he'll do a great job as Nathan Drake. But we'll see. You know what I mean? Next up, don't want to get too political on this one, but it was definitely something that I felt like we needed to talk about. Gina Carano was removed from the Mandalorian series and from future Lucasfilm projects for some controversial tweets. We'll just leave it as that. Now, for me, this makes me really, really sad, right? I feel like Gina Carano should definitely be able to say and think whatever she wants. But it's also Disney's right to remove someone that doesn't fit within their guidelines, that in terms of a person representing their company.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. I think she did an amazing job as Cara Dune. I'm going to miss her, but it is what it is. Recast her. Whoever they pick is going to be someone great. So it is what it is. Again, I will miss her, but Chris, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. I spoke about this a little bit during our weekly upload that released today, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. Gina Carano should be allowed to say whatever she wants to in her personal life and on her social media. But being a public figurehead, she also needs to understand the repercussions of what come along with certain statements. And in terms of this particular situation, Disney actually gave her 3 separate opportunities to cease and desist the inappropriate social media posts, and she didn't. Which is way more opportunity than they gave James Gunn when they fired him for tweets that he had posted 11 years ago. So like they were more than gracious when it came to asking her to stop, and she didn't want to stop. So she has to live with the repercussions of what she did. It's not like Disney has the right to fire whoever they wish, like you said, for conduct that doesn't necessarily align with what their business represents. Mm-hmm. And that's not just Disney. That's literally any employer in existence has the right to do so, just as you have the right to act as you will and say what you will in the workplace. You just have to live with those repercussions. So, Cara Dune was awesome. She was a badass character. It was nice to see a strong female character in Star Wars again. I hope they don't recast. That's always really weird, but I don't know how they would handle killing her off or just saying like she's somewhere else in the galaxy far, far away. But
yeah, I guess they could say that
she...
Yeah, I guess they could say she joined the Rangers and she's just been off on missions, I guess.
Yeah,
if they don't
but that's also
recast.
Really weird considering they're creating a spin-off that's like, what is it called? Like, the Rangers is in the name. I'm sorry, I'm spacing on
Rangers
the name
of the New Republic.
I was about to say
Rangers of the New Republic. Thank you. So that would also be very weird, though, if they were making a show called Rangers of the New Republic and focusing on these characters, but then they're like, oh yeah, Cara Dune's off doing different things somewhere else right now. Don't think about that. That's not important anymore. Like, it's just very weird.
So for me, I can't really add too much to what you guys were saying because you guys are 100% right. But it sucks that in this day and age that whatever you say in public, whatever, like if you are like a figure like James Gunn, like her as well, and anybody, Kevin Hart, whatever you say in public now, it will come back and bite you, no matter in a couple months, in a couple minutes, in a couple years. Yeah. So it sucks that you have to choose what you say and choose to who to say it to as well, because those people could also stab you in the back. So it kind of sucks that we're in this public age of cancel culture, is what they call it, and it sucks to know, like what James said and what Chris said, is that you have to watch what you say because you will lose your bag of money. This was her job. This was her money on the line. She was given the opportunity to just try to delete those tweets, do what it is. She want to stand her ground. Hey, praise that to you. You want to praise in what you believe in? Cool. But at the same time, like Chris said, like you're a public figure and you are making the company probably look wrong. So, but what I'm curious is like, it's how it's done now. Like the way you say stuff now on Twitter, it could literally cancel you now within the same hours or the same day, just like it happened to James Gunn or to other people. So like that's the part that I find negative, or like that kind of sucks in that type of opportunity now. Like you have to really care what you say and what you tweet in those 180 characters now, or Facebook or IG, stuff like that, in any type of social media platform.
Yeah. Like I get it, dude. Like I definitely get like how you feel about the negativity towards like cancel culture. And I feel like different situations call for different actions, right? Like with the James Gunn situation, those were terrible jokes, but it was just dark humor. And then on top of that, at the point that it came out, those tweets were like 8 to 10 years old. You know what I mean? So it's like if Dave Chappelle said those jokes, or like, well, not Louis C.K. because yeah,
cancel.
But if certain comedians did those jokes in different points, like I don't think they would be scrutinized like the way James Gunn was, right? But because he's not known as a comedian, people took those jokes differently, even though they were terrible. I'm not trying to justify his tweets. They were terrible, but that's not his actual thought process. It was just dark humor for shock value, right? And again, they were super old tweets. You can't judge someone who's grown 8 to 10 years as that person, right? If he was still making those tweets, to me that would be different. But he didn't. That's something that he left behind. So them rushing to the point of just firing him, that was wrong, and I'm glad that they pulled back on that, and he's now back with Marvel Studios. The Gina Carano thing, she was given multiple opportunities. It's like, hey, yes, you are allowed to say what you want, but you are also representing our company, and you can't do this.
Yeah.
Like, the things that you're saying is harmful to the face of the company, and it just doesn't work. And she just continued to do it, knowing full well that her job was on the line. So her being fired, she deserved it.
What I do
You know what I
wonder
mean?
is
Can't disagree with that.
how does it get done? Like, do they have to ask permission of the directors, or sorry, not permission? Do they have to inform the directors to like, hey, we're gonna fire her? I hope that's cool with you. Like, I want to inform you. Like, how does that go down the line in that type of business, like in that type of entertainment? Like, when you're gonna fire an actor over Twitter stuff and everything of how they do the freedom of speech, like, how does that go? I'm curious. Like, I'm curious of how in that realm, in that type of producing room.
I can't speak. I know. I can't really speak to it. I haven't been in the rooms or anything, but I assume there's some type of like trickle down effect. You know, Bob Chapek probably has the final word. I would assume, being the CEO of Disney. But at least in terms of the opportunities they gave her prior to the firing, they reached out to her agents, who then asked her to cease and desist.
Yeah.
And when she wouldn't, it just progressively got worse. Her agents even let her go after the firing at Disney. So I mean,
already did not know.
Disney wasn't the only bridge that she burned, which is a shame, you know. But that's what she chose to do. She wanted to make those tweets, so she has to live with those repercussions.
And plus, to add to what Chris said, I also don't want her to get recast. I hope somebody else just come in with a new character name and just replace that person, because who knows, probably a year from now, 2 years from now, she probably fixes her actions. Who knows, she goes and probably redeems her, and probably that character could come back. Who knows? So you know,
possible.
people change, characters change, personalities changes. We change every single day. So I'm not saying that people could forgive her, but she could probably become a better person a year from now. So who knows? So that's why I wouldn't want her to be recast, because her stunts, her roles was really entertaining of what she did in the past whole 16 episodes of the 2 seasons of Mando. So I'd like to see more of her character if she ever does come back in future, and if she doesn't get recast by somebody else, and hopefully they give somebody else some cool name, and also change that for her for said person to become the main spotlight for Rangers of the New Republic.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Like, I hope she doesn't get recast, and I hope they leave it open for her to return sometime in the future, because fans love her.
Yeah.
I think she's amazing. Her first appearance, like that fight against her, with her against Mando, that was amazing. And then Grogu just shows up in the middle of the fight, like
his bone broth.
Yeah, it was so amazing. Like, I
this.
feel like this is a character that she actually fits into. You know what I mean? Like, her as what was her character in Deadpool? I don't even remember. But it's like she was fine in Deadpool, and she's fine in like that kickboxer movie. But it's like I feel like she finally found her thing in Star Wars, and it's like,
I agree. She barely spoke in Deadpool.
Yeah, I mean, did she even have lines? Did she have like she had like 2
lines
lines?
or something, or... I don't know.
Yeah, but again, man, it sucks, but it is what it is. She brought this upon herself. She chose to put her political values over the bag. It is what it is. But again, I hope they don't recast. We'll see what happens in the future, because they even spoke about a spin-off show with her as the lead. So that led me to believe that she was going to show up in her own show and Rangers of the New Republic. So it's like, you just ruined everything. She could have ended. Yeah, so much money too, because she could have negotiated for money, because people love her character that much. Once you're in with the mouse, she could have been in the MCU. She could have come back in Deadpool 3. Those opportunities are gone.
Did you guys hear that not to make this last any longer, but did you
Oh,
guys
you're
hear that
good.
Hasbro also stopped making Cara Dune figures?
Yeah, I
I
did
saw
see
that.
that.
Yeah, I did see that.
That was
Oh,
fast.
what was gonna
Very.
add about Deadpool? Her character was Angel Dust.
Angel Dust. Right,
There
right,
you
right,
go.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
She's the one that jumped from the high ship and she fought Negasonic
superhero
Teenage
landing.
Warhead. Yeah, correct.
Superhero landing.
Here, watch, boom. That's
God,
a
I can't
10.
wait. I can't wait for Deadpool 3.
I'm excited for that 4-4 breaking with other characters, and I hope he makes a joke of Rhodey. Say like, you look like somebody else that was part of some first film that was not you. Like you look different. He's in a show that's called Power now, or something like that.
That'd be excellent.
Yeah,
That'd be
it would
amazing.
be awesome to see that happen. I can't wait to watch Deadpool just like riff on all of these guys in the MCU. But let's move on to our next news topic. Sonic 2. We finally have a release date and a title. It's going to be Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and that film hits theaters on April 8th, 2022. I really enjoyed the first Sonic movie, minus the Olive Garden product placement that's
Oh, I
throughout the
totally
entire
forgot about that.
film. I hate that stuff. Product placement drives me absolutely insane most of the time. But I'm really excited for Sonic 2. I think Jim Carrey's amazing as Robotnik. I can't wait to see him back. Can't wait to see Tails. And I hope at the end of this movie we get a teaser for Knuckles, because that's going to be dope. But what did you guys think about this news?
If we get something of a trilogy of Sonic, I want the third one to be about Shadow. I want Shadow. I know that's a long shot, but Shadow is amazing. He's one of my favorite characters. I grew up with Sonic X. The dub does not hold up. I gotta say, I was rewatching one drop on Netflix a couple years. I think it was last year or 2019. That does not hold up. Oh, that dub. That's just. It just gives me brain palms just trying to think about that. But Sonic 2, the movie, I'm hella excited. Tails was a nice little cameo at the end, and I'm excited for it because I'm curious to know how they're gonna execute and how is Dr. Eggman gonna come back. I'm really curious to know, is he gonna go full bold and is he gonna gain weight? Like, I'm curious to know how's that character gonna look in the next movie, because he's crazy as an actor. He is a bit method with his style, so it depends how he's gonna go with it. But I'm really curious for Jim Carrey to do what he loves, and it's being him.
Yeah. Brian brings up the Zillow ad too. Oh my god, that product
Oh,
placement
right.
Oh
annoyed
yes,
me
forgot about
so
that.
much. It sucks. Oh, it's so bad.
But they had to make money, so use ads
Yeah,
there.
at least they
Yes.
were open and honest about their product placement.
Yes.
But
But
I'm
Chris, what are your
excited for
thoughts on
Sonic
this?
2. I went into the first Sonic movie with very low expectations, and I came out really liking it. I like Ben Schwartz as Sonic. He's a great Sonic. He has great energy as that character. And Jim Carrey is a perfect Dr. Robotnik. So just like you guys, I mean, I'm excited for both of those people to come back and see what they do in the sequel. And now Jim Carrey, I mean, he was zany in the first one, but now that we've seen him, shave his head and grow out his Robotnik Eggman mustache, like in this sequel, he can be full Robotnik. So I'm excited to see what he does.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what he does. I can't wait to see like what lines he's gonna ad lib, because he ad libbed so many different lines in the first movie. So I know he's gonna go ape shit in this one. And like you said, like Ben Schwartz was great as the voice of Sonic. Like, can't
he
wait
was
to see
amazing.
how Knuckles plays in. I mean, Tails plays into this.
Tails.
I'm very excited, very very excited for Sonic 2. I can't wait.
I'm curious to know if we're gonna see those Chaos Emeralds.
Chaos Emeralds?
I'm curious to know if we're gonna see them, because if Tails is there, it has to involve the Chaos Emeralds, because Chaos is the scientist and Tails always protected them, with Knuckles and knew about them. So I'm curious to know, is that gonna be intertwined with the story as well?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I hope so. I think that would be a really cool twist to the second movie for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. So last news topic that I wanted to talk about was the premiere of Zack Snyder's Justice League. We got the official trailer finally. And man, I am so excited for the Snyder cut. Like, I was one of those people in the beginning, and I knew that Zack Snyder already had most of this stuff shot, but I never once believed that WB would pay the money that it would take to get it made. But the fans, the power of the fans
It's
made
crazy.
it happen. I mean, I think they're putting in like upwards of like 80 million into reshoots and the VFX to make the Snyder Cut happen. So seeing this trailer, getting to see like Zack Snyder's vision for Steppenwolf, even though I'm not the biggest fan of like his dark side design, if I'm being honest, but I love the armor of the people on Apocalypse. I love the new way that Steppenwolf looks. That clip where we got to see him fight against the Amazons, it was brutal and awesome. So we also got a cameo of Jared Leto's Joker.
Yeah.
We know he's going to be in it in the nightmare sequence that Batman has. That's we know is going to continue from BVS. That was one of the things I was worried about. Like, how much are we going to get into that nightmare sequence? Because Flash plays into that a lot as well. So we know that we're going to get a lot of great stuff in the Snyder Cut of Justice League. So what are you guys' thoughts on the trailer?
Chris, go first.
It looks awesome. Like his visual style, Zack Snyder's visual style is certainly epic, right? I can at least give it that. And last time I was on the show, I mean, I said that the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League is like my second most anticipated film for this year, which is still true. I can't promise the movie's going to be good, but it's certainly going to look awesome. And I think like epic metal is like the best way to describe what's happening in this trailer. Like you, James, I really do like the redesign of Steppenwolf. I've heard Zack Snyder speak to how the armor is like dynamic and almost alive, where it will change shape on its own, like catching arrows and shit when he's fighting the Amazons. And it looks so much better than what we got in the theatrical, at least. And at least for that reason, I'm excited to see it. I think it'll be really cool. And in terms of the nightmare sequence, I mean, it's a 4-hour movie. We could spend an hour possibly in the nightmare sequence alone. So we'll see. I'm hyped.
I hope we get some type of documentary of how Zack Snyder spoke to Warner Bros. Like, hey, look, the people are talking. I got an idea. So let me finish it. Like, I really want to know that documentary where we could see how did he speak to the whole producers, the whole freaking money people. Like, how did he convince them, hey, I need more money to try to finish this vision? And a lot of people asking for it, just Twitter accounts and everything. Like, it's been asked for years. So that's my question, because I would love to know behind the scenes, how did he get to it?
I can tell you right now, Walter Hamada was like, we need more subscribers on HBO Max. What have fans been clamoring for? Oh, the Snyder Cut. Hey, Zack Snyder, do you still have all that footage you shot from the Justice League? Yeah? Okay, here's $7 million. That's probably
that could
along
be
the lines
possible.
of how it went down.
That probably could
more
be
than
possible.
likely.
That could be definitely probably be true. But about the trailer, no lie, I was like with James. I'm like, this fucking Zack Snyder cut don't fucking exist. Like, that's some bogus. Like, there's no way it's been, like, no matter how much you tweet about it, no matter how much it comes out. And then a year ago when it was me, James, and Sam and Ray, we were on the podcast, and then we just laughed about, like, it's fucking true. It's actually real. There's an actual cut. There's a real cut. And then to actually see the trailer, I'm excited for Black Superman. That's one. I'm excited for Cyborg, because Cyborg actually has a lot more scenes. And Barry actually catches a girl that in the original movie, there was no actual girl. This time, Iris West is actually there. So it's like Chris said, we don't know if the movie will actually be good. But am I freaking excited for it? Hell yeah. Would I be watching on first night when it comes out 3 a.m. for us or for some Eastern people? Hell yeah, because I'm curious to know of how the Vash movie that was a couple years ago, of how it was so underwhelming. I need to see a redemption for that movie, because this would be totally different, and I need to see how good Black Superman is, and Ben Affleck be the Batman he was supposed to be, the one that he is like Dark Knight version. And in the Joker, Jared Leto looks awesome. Reminds me a lot of Jared Leto, right? No, reminds me a lot of Heath Ledger. It reminds me a lot with the makeup. Hair. Yeah, with the long hair, makeup, and everything. But I'm guessing that's probably some type of homage they're trying to do. Who knows? But overall, I love it.
There is a lot of sick imagery in this trailer. Like we see the war tank from Dark Knight Returns, which
Oh, yeah.
wasn't in the original movie. That was sick. I know I texted you guys when that teaser came out and we saw Granny Goodness.
Yes,
I was
Granny
like,
Goodness was there too.
like,
I never
even if she
expected
doesn't say any lines, even if she says nothing, just the fact that she's in the movie is insane to me. And that doesn't make the movie good by any means, but like that's fan service that I'm fine with. Like, sure,
Agreed.
let's see some of Darkseid's henchmen that we didn't get to see in the original cut. It was shocking.
Do you think we're gonna see any more cameos of the other goddess or gods that are around the area? Do you think we will see any more of them, or do you think it's just those certain people there?
I doubt it. I think Desaad and Granny Goodness is probably like as much as we're gonna get. But I don't know, James, what do you think?
I don't think we'll see any of the other gods simply because Walter Hamada has pretty much straight up said that he has no plans at all to continue the universe that Zack Snyder created. So it's like
there was a New Gods movie in development. I don't know where that currently stands.
If I'm correct, they wrapped that. Like they threw in the trash can. If I'm correct, they just didn't want to do it no more. If I'm correct.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see that. If you have that article, I would love to like read that once we're done here. But last time I checked, it was who was the director again? It was I can't remember.
She directed A Wrinkle in Time.
Yes, she did. Yeah.
Ava
DuVernay. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
So she is doing another project. So the New Gods movie went on pause. So it's like, did they already have this planned? Like, did they plan to scrap the New Gods movie and she just moved on to another project?
Maybe they're like, let's have Marvel release Eternals and see what they do. And then maybe we'll just tweak New Gods to be like the Eternals.
The last thing that was
You're joking, but that doesn't sound crazy at all.
Oh, no, not at all. Yeah.
The last thing that was out about the New Gods movie release date was in 2019. And they say that everything you need to know about the movie, where the movie still be coming out. So that's why I see about the quick articles I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a bad idea for this movie to come out now in general. Oh, yeah. It's like, yes, I get that you want to expand the universe, much like Guardians did and what Eternals will do. But you don't have enough of a world for people to care about expansion. You don't have anything yet. You've shown us Gotham and Metropolis, and we've seen some of Themyscira, and that's it. Like, you haven't built an actual universe for anyone to actually give a shit about diving into the New Gods. Like, no one cares enough about the DCEU to care about the expansion. You know what I mean? To see Highfather and all of these different characters. Like, you haven't made people care enough yet. So I think it was just a bad idea.
I'd be okay with just having a Zack Snyder DC trilogy. Man of Steel, BVS, Justice League. Let's leave it at that. Like, we got to see the man's complete vision for the most part. And yes, we still haven't seen Justice League. But like, by the time we see Justice League, we will have a trilogy of films following Superman from his origin, at least how Zack Snyder sees it, to maybe him becoming a fully fledged Superman, like the one we know in the comics. At least that's what Zack Snyder said, that like we're working up to the Superman that we see in the comics. But
it's just
we'll find out.
It's just gonna be so weird because we know that this movie happens before Aquaman, and we know this movie happens before the Wonder Woman movie. So I'm like, I'm curious now about Aquaman's powers because he technically, in what the way we know in our timeline, we already saw that he became the king of Atlantis already. But the way we see it, just that he didn't become the king yet. So it's gonna be weird to just know that this is like a prequel before Aquaman and the Wonder Woman film. So it's gonna be weird. And hopefully they, even though we saw the trailer, hopefully they fix Barry as well, because he acted so much like Wally. Because Mercenary actually pointed that out. That's why I got so confused, because he acted so much like Wally in the movie and not like Barry. So hopefully they fix that as well.
I think Warner Brothers' official stance is that the Snyder Cut is not canon to their DCEU universe. It's just like, we're letting this man finish his vision. Like, go play over there. We're gonna keep doing our stuff.
Which I think is a mistake. Like, I
especially if it turns out to be good.
Yeah. I bet you a week after they'll be like, you know what? We changed our mind. You know, this should actually become canon to the films. I'm like, but yeah, I said it like a year ago. It's not. So now you want to change your mind because everybody's saying how good it is. I bet you that'll happen a week later. or
Totally.
days
They'll
even.
pivot.
Like,
They'll pivot
like
if it's good.
to Christian's comment about Zack Snyder making everything broody and unrewarding, I couldn't disagree more. Like, maybe Zack Snyder doesn't hit it out of the park every single time, but I love his Superman. The problem with his Superman is that everyone wants him to be the happy-go-lucky Boy Scout right out of the gate, and that's not humanly possible, right?
Right.
That's not something that logically makes sense.
And plus, he's
Zack
not
Snyder,
human.
yeah, Zack Snyder decided to show you a being. He's a being, first of all. Before he's this fantastical being that you've made up in your minds because of the comics, he is a being. You have to think about what it would be like for this person to grow up in real life. Like, we all already feel so different from everyone else. Like, I have like depressive moments where I feel like I'm completely different than every other human on the planet. He actually is.
Yeah.
And he had to grow up hiding every part of himself, to grow up, to hide parts of himself even more, because the military would want to either kill him or try to turn him to be a weapon for the military. So when they bring up like all of the court case stuff in like BVS, all of that stuff is great to me, because this is what would happen in real life in my eyes.
Right.
What do we do with this Superman? Do we just let him act autonomously and just fly all over the globe and just do whatever he wants? How do we stop him if he decides to change his mind one day? Thinking about those things are logical and it makes sense to me. But everyone wants Christopher Reeve Superman right now. Give that Superman time. He will get there. He will grow by his experiences. He will grow to become that version of Superman. But you have to give it time. It can't just happen because you want it to be that way. Like, I've said this multiple times, and I know it's an unpopular opinion. I don't think Christopher Reeve is that great. It's like, yeah, sure. Like, I think he's great acting as Clark Kent and as Superman, but the Superman that was written is unrealistic for what I care about. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
he's just
I get
this
that.
happy guy who just flies around and he just saves kittens from trees, and he puts out fires, and he uses his X-ray vision to build walls of bricks. It's just it's not the Superman for me, bro. Like, I
But
think he's
He's
great
of the
in the
time,
role,
though.
but he's of the time.
He's of the time, and that's perfectly said that what Chris just brought up, and to add to what James just said, is that we got that perfectly jolly Superman, and because of what was going on through that time when comics were being made, we were at war, we were going through the Cold Depression, a lot of things were happening out through those years when Superman and Captain America, we needed those good heroes, we needed this truth and justice in the American way, we needed that in the comics, and to bring that joyful side inside our beautiful society. Now with this whole movies and everything, we bring the more realism into our movies, into our characters, and that's what Superman, what James I think is trying to say with our Clark Kent Superman about Henry Cavill with Zack Snyder type of vision. They bring it like not everybody grows up the same, but we want him the Superman we know into the jolly one we grew up and see. That's why he has the gruesome side, because he don't know who he was. Is he human? Is he an alien? Is he Kryptonian? He doesn't know which way to kind of really identify. So I agree with what James is trying to say, because I was one of those people that did not like Man of Steel. It took me a couple of tries, probably 6 tries, to finally enjoy that film.
Wow.
Like, Mercenary, to answer your question, I think Man of Steel is almost a masterpiece. The thing that doesn't make it a masterpiece for me is the way Jonathan Kent dies. I think his death is stupid. They could have done it a completely different way. I think he should have died of a heart attack. I think he should have died of cancer, because it shows the exact same thing that they've shown you in the comics. Even with all of this great power, with all of your godlike abilities, you can't save everyone, and that's a lesson that you have to learn. You know what I mean? Instead of just Jonathan Kent just like, no, let me die because the world isn't ready for you yet. I think that's dumb, because first of all, he could have just grabbed him and just ran away. And it's like, well, what the hell happened? And no one would believe them anyway. Even if they said something, no one would believe them, right? So it's like, I feel like there was another way to do it, much like the Martha scene. And I don't want to go into a rant on the Martha scene, but there was another way, a completely different way to do that, and it would be exactly the same. The effect would be exactly the same. So that is the only thing that stops Man of Steel from being a masterpiece for me. But I get why people don't get it. Like Christian is making jokes in the chat right now. I also don't want to see Spider-Man just walking around brooding. Should I ever take a photo ever again? I don't know. Uncle Ben's dead. I don't know what to do with my life. I definitely don't want to see that. And all I'm saying is Zack Snyder chose a different, unique way to tell the beginning of Superman's story, and I found it interesting. Is it the way that I would have done it? Maybe not, but I respected the fact that he even tried to do something different instead of the Superman Returns movie, where Brandon Routh didn't even get to be his own Superman because he was just cosplay Christopher Reeve in a terrible movie. You know what I mean? Like, at least Zack Snyder tried something to really humanize Kal-El. You know what I mean? So I get why people don't like it, but I love it.
I think most people get hung up on him snapping Zod's neck.
Me, I don't.
At the very end of the film. That's what I've heard.
So can we talk about that real quick?
Wait,
sure.
I just want to add that I was with James' point in the beginning. Like, I was a person who gave Men of Steel a 5, but I kept being told by people, watch it more, see it, they grow onto you. And then I met other people that gave their opinions and for the justification of why it's good. So it took me 6 tries to go from a 5 to a 9. But that 9 is the same opinions of James, is that it could not save your father. Like, that was the most stupidest reason. But James, go ahead.
Yeah, like I hate that argument, right? Zod was literally bred to be a military warrior, right?
Exactly.
What was the alternative in the real world? What is the alternative, right? The what was it called? The Phantom Drive?
Zone.
The Phantom Zone, right?
Yep.
The engine that they were going to use, it's gone. So he can't trap him anywhere. What was he supposed to do? He's fighting against someone. Yeah, he's fighting against someone that understands their abilities way more than he does. He picks it up so much easily. He's becoming more stronger by the second, the more he uses his abilities. What was the alternative? Was he going to fly him into space, and then what? They can breathe in space. So what is the alternative? He was Superman for like 2 days. What was the alternative? He had to kill him. It was either he killed Zod or he spends the rest of a couple days trying to stop Zod from killing innocent people by trying to, in what prison, right? What prison are you going to put Zod in? There are no facilities with red light radiation emanating from its walls. Like, none of these things exist because the world just found out about Superman. So where were you gonna imprison him? What was Superman supposed to do? Even if he flew him off world, where are you taking him? The only alternative was to kill him. Like, I hate that argument.
Zod even told him that he wasn't going to stop.
Yeah. So what was the alternative? I hate that argument. Because what was the alternative?
Because he said, I'm going to kill these people until you join and everything. And he had no choice. He had to kill Zod. And I feel like when you're a hero, you have to choose what is to save these people, because you have the weight of the earth, the world on your shoulders. And that's something that Superman, Clark Kent, that he has to hold on to for the rest of his life. Stuff like that you cannot do much about.
And then on top of that, you have to realize that it wasn't an easy decision.
It wasn't.
First of all, that was the first time he ever murdered someone.
Right. Dude, the scream that he lets out after he snaps his neck is like, there's so much pain packed into that scream.
Yeah.
It's great.
And then on top of that, he just killed the last of his kind. He is now alone again after realizing that he wasn't alone. Again, I don't want to rant on about it anymore because I want to get into
totally agree with you.
the next section, but it just doesn't make sense to bring up that argument, because in the real world, based on what we were given in Man of Steel, there was literally no other alternative. And if you believe that there is, tell me. If you can give me a logical reason for him to do something else, if you can give me anything that actually makes sense, I will listen to you. I'm not ignorant. I will sit there and I will listen to you. But I have watched Man of Steel dozens of times. I've sat there because the first time I saw the movie, I was absolutely pissed. I was like, Superman, he doesn't kill? What the fuck? But then when you think about it, it's like, well, I guess he literally had no choice.
He had no choice in that predicament. It was literally have those people that are about to have this whole laser beam get killed, or snap his neck. That's it.
It was a no-win scenario.
This isn't the comics. This isn't the comics where Star Labs is already, introduced, and it's like, oh yeah, I'll just go talk to the leaders at Star Labs, and they can just build me a magical machine that can teleport Zod to the other end of the galaxy.
There's no mother box
yet. It doesn't exist yet. What are you talking about?
Christian in the chat just said he could have flown around the world to reverse time.
But at the same time, there's no mother box either. Just like in the comic, they will turn other villains into a different world. But mother box didn't exist yet on Earth where they know about it.
Yeah, they didn't know about those yet. Like, there was just no alternative. But anyways, I digress.
No worries.
Welcome to the Man of Steel episode of Villains.
Which I probably need to rewatch it with James and have like a full commentary with him, because I haven't rewatched that in probably 2 or 4 years.
Yeah, you should, man. I think it's a really good movie. Besides that one thing that I talked about, I hated that Jonathan Kent scene. But besides that, I think the movie's amazing. Yeah, but let's move into our first main topic, where I want to know from you, Chris. And this is going to be a new segment on the show, by the way. After we did it with Ray last week, I figured, you know what? This would be a great segment for new guests on the show to tell us a movie that they think would work much better as a TV series. So Vash and I gave a couple options last week. So Chris, since I didn't ask you on the first time you were on, I want to know what's your pick for a movie that would work better as a TV series.
Yeah, hopefully I'm not kind of circumventing your rules here. But I think that the Harry Potter franchise would work very well as a television series. And HBO Max actually just announced that they are developing some type of Wizarding World Harry Potter series. So I know it's kind of cheating because like the source material is actually a book, but and I don't hate the Harry Potter films by any means. I think they are good for what they are. But in terms of adapting a series, I think a long form Harry Potter series that adapts the novels into seasons would be excellent, because we would get to explore that world so deeply. So yeah, the Harry Potter franchise I think would make an excellent show.
Yeah, I agree completely, and I'm glad they're working on it, because like the Fantastic Beasts movies, right? Like I feel like, yeah, this could have worked better as a series. Like there's just too much crammed into these movies.
Agreed.
Like just make a series, man. Like this is the way to go, especially in the age of streaming. It's like, you have a streaming service, just do a TV show. You'll get subscribers. You'll get to make amazing content. We've seen what they've been able to do on Disney Plus. Like we've seen what can be done if you take these properties and instead of trying to make it 2 hours or 90 minutes, make it a series. And like you said, Harry Potter would be amazing.
And for me, I was gonna add, Chris, if you want a good recommendation, there's a manga called Masho. It's Harry Potter, just like it. It's perfect, and it was only 50 chapters right now on the Shonen Jump Up. So if you want to read it, where it's right next to My Hero Academia, just go down to M right there and just read Masho. It's a nice 50 chapter. It's like a mix of Harry Potter and plus One Punch Man. It will entertain you.
That's such a weird mashup.
Oh no, it's a good mashup, because I'll tell you the quick synopsis. The character has no magic, but this guy builds and trains, works out. He has a name for each part of his muscles and everything. He goes to school of a magic school, and he wants to be one of the best wizards. I'll tell you that, but there's more information. But it's definitely good. It's only 50 chapters right now, so perfectly good read, and will entertain you. Will entertain you until you get a TV series in probably 2025.
Mercenary V for Vendetta would be an amazing like mini series. Like I think that movie is perfection. Like that movie is absolutely amazing. But as a series, bro, you have to check it out. It's so good. It's one of Natalie Portman's best performances. It's one of Hugo Weaving's best performances in my opinion. It's amazing. But as a series, there's so much you could do with that universe, and like what life is like under that dictatorship. Like
it's been long enough. They could absolutely adapt that comic into a television series.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, but Vash, I highly recommend you checking out V for Vendetta. It's an amazing movie. I think it recently just came out in 4K, if I'm not
It did
mistaken. So
a couple months ago.
definitely check that out. All
I
right,
will.
so let's get into the meat. Let's get into exactly what we've been waiting for since Friday. Let's get into our main topic number 2, our WandaVision episode 6 full spoilers review. Guys, this episode had so much to unpack. I have so much notes. There were so many Easter eggs. There's so many things that were just
Oh
kind
my
of
God.
like, yeah, my notes are also ridiculous. Like the fourth
There's
wall
more.
breaking from Pietro to Vision, like lying to Wanda so that he can go out and experience what life is like for the people under Wanda's control. This episode gave us so many things.
I love this
so,
episode.
Chris, I want to start with you. What were some of your standout moments from the episode?
So I have a couple different moments written down here. To start at the very beginning, I love the intro sequence. Like
Malcolm in the Middle.
I grew up in the 90s. I used to watch Malcolm in the Middle on Fox. Like, this is a pure homage to Malcolm in the Middle. But not only that, I love that the lyrics for all of these opening
Points.
sequences have been so good because they tie into the show so well and kind of tell you what's going on. The lyrics of the opening sequence are basically telling Wanda to like ignore what's going on and just continue creating the illusion and don't worry about everything that's happening. Just like feed the illusion, you know,
Yes.
keep it going. I think the song says. I also love that in that opening sequence, on Agnes's pants, it says naughty,
Yes.
which is just like another hint that there's absolutely something going on with Agnes here. She definitely is not who she seems to be. Another one of my favorite parts is just Evan Peters' performance overall for the whole episode. He's excellent because he's fun, but also antagonistic. So he, within the sitcom world, he's meant to play this like fun, chaotic uncle. But in the grand scheme of the show, we still don't know if it's actually Quicksilver or if it's someone disguised as Quicksilver. But he reaches these levels of, antagonizing Wanda where he could very well be Mephisto in disguise or Nightmare in disguise or something that's delivered to cause her problems within the hex. So those were two of my favorite things. The commercial as well. The mid-show or mid-episode commercials have been really good and have also given a lot of insight into what might be happening later on in the show. So yeah, those are some standout things for me.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
For me, it's the same thing as Chris said. I grew up with Malcolm in the Middle. Like, that was happening during my time and everything. So I was never a huge fan of it at first, but on rewatch on Nick and everything, I grew up with it and I was more entertained by it. And I love how detailed they are with camera shots and aspect ratio with those type of shots throughout each episode. Because if you have seen Malcolm in the Middle, they took a lot of shots, over the shoulder shots of Pietro, showing the nice sleeping uncle, but showing the other kids in the back. And the way in
Right,
this
they
episode,
do like the double focus shots.
Yes. So that was like those type of detail I love because it's very detailed to creation of the show and how much they put that much effort. The second thing I like is that in the show about Malcolm in the Middle, they also did the thing of speak and foreshadow, meaning that they speak about what's going to happen, but then it happens like 5 seconds later of what was going on. When Wanda asked the guy, that was a Frankenstein, Curb, and he kept saying, "Oh, but the pumpkins are getting smashed." They were not getting smashed until 5 seconds later. He said it, and then they were getting smashed. All the candy was being taken away, and then 5 seconds later, all the candy was being taken away. So I love those details into the show because that's what happened in Malcolm in the Middle and everything. So I love those type of details in the show. Like, those were my two favorites. Not really those pieces, but it's more in the director and plus cinematography style is what I love the most. James?
So first off, Elizabeth Olsen in that Scarlet Witch costume. Wow. God, she's gorgeous. But one of the biggest standout moments for me were just Billy and Tommy talking directly to the camera, much like in Malcolm in the Middle. But there's an additional layer because, I mean, Billy can alter reality much like Wanda. So
Right.
he's in on the whole thing. Like he knows everything that's going on, but this is normal life to him, so he doesn't see it any differently, which is crazy to think about. Another one of the biggest standout moments for me were pretty much when they went out trick or treating, right? And we get that conversation between Wanda and Pietro. It's like, why do you look different? And he gives that line. It's like, well, if I discovered Shangri-La, like I wouldn't want to be reminded of like any bad things or whatever. I'm paraphrasing, but it's like for me that pretty much confirms that Wanda, well, not confirms, but it leads me to believe that Wanda did the same thing with Vision and kind of subconsciously brought back Pietro's corpse and reanimated without even knowing it. Or it's Mephisto, or it's Nightmare trying to mess with Wanda as Pietro, because later on, towards the end of the episode where it like leans more into like the early 2000s, what he tells Wanda is like, yeah, I mean, why are you so worried? Like your dead husband can't die twice. That's not something your brother would tell you. He wouldn't know how sensitive of a topic that would be for Wanda. So it's like, that's when I started to believe it's like, this may not even be Pietro, bro. It could be Mephisto. Right. It could be Nightmare, since Nightmare has the ability to pretty much harness people's astral forms. Like, I don't know how that could be playing into it. Like, I don't know, man. Like, this episode brings up a lot of questions.
Did you guys notice that to speak to the kids looking into the camera, or whenever Billy's talking directly to the camera, did you guys notice at the very beginning of the episode where Billy's talking about how Wanda and Vision have been having a hard time lately and arguing a little bit, that Pietro is actually looking directly at Billy as he's talking to the camera?
Yes.
So Pietro's like fully aware of the fourth wall breaking that's taking place. And that also leads me to believe that like something is going on with that Pietro form.
And plus to add, about Pietro knows about the whole sitcom aspect that they're on the TV, because he also poked fun of it that they're being watched by Sword as well. So he knows what's going on outside of the whole hex as well. So that's key. And also in the chat said that one thing I'm excited for next week episode, because if you have watched the show of Two Broke Girls that Darcy got in capture within the hex, I hope in next week episode
she's like a waitress or something.
She's a waitress in that outfit, or she has the accent again, because it would be so far for breaking that she plays her role again. But she knows, and like, wait a minute, what if I was doing my old job again as a Two Broke Girls? Hopefully they have a license to say that or something, because that would be so far for breaking in meta. It would be amazing.
Yeah,
they won't I feel like I've done this before.
Yeah. They won't say Two Broke Girls, but she'll definitely be in that waitress uniform, and she'll definitely bring some type of reference. Like, have I done this before? It feels like something like that.
Or say like, why do I feel like I'm missing a friend or something? Like, what's my blonde rich friend or something like that? Because it will fit so for the role. So that's one thing that got me excited for Darcy, because she's also very beautiful. So I can't wait to see how her outfit looks too. But also to add to what the chat said is that the whole Nightmare, to what James said, that could also be true, because imagine is also Nightmare that's adding to more about Vision. Because one thing that this show is doing is the creepiness, like the type of horror genre, because to see Quicksilver being the whole gray, like being dead and have those type of bullets in him, that creeped me out too. And I don't get creeped by easily. I do get scared easily, but creep out, not really. And when I saw that, I was like, you know what, guys, you're getting too good at being creepy here with this type of this whole makeup and stuff, because they play it very well.
Yeah, it's in those moments, it's like reality is slipping through.
Yes.
And she's seeing them exactly how they are. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm very confused as to how like who this Pietro is, like if it's actually him or if it's someone else just using Pietro to mess with Wanda, because I mean obviously he was someone extremely close to her life. But there's something about that WandaVision does really, really well, is just showing you this sitcom-esque reality that Wanda has built to try to cover up her trauma, which is something that Pietro even brings up, like you shut away most of your trauma from when you were a kid.
trick-or-treating cutaway.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I don't remember it happening like that. And he's like, oh, you probably buried it because of the trauma. Like,
And
the things that he says, he's fully aware of what she's doing. He even asks her when they have that moment later on in the episode, like, I really respect, he says, I really respect what you were doing. Like, where were you keeping all these kids? Like, I respect how you be ethical about this. You kept all couples together. Like, you kept the kids asleep until you needed them in a holiday episode. Like, families had stayed together. You given people better jobs. But then he's like, how did you do all this? So that also makes me suspicious of him, because he's probing her to try and get information about how she's doing this. And she really doesn't even know.
That was one of my favorite moments of this episode, because it's something that a lot of people complain, like, where's all the people, where the kids? And it also asks a question in the first 2 episodes, like, we are for the children, we are for the kids and everything. And then with this episode, we get the whole kids like popping out left and right, like, oh, kids are running around, like, what's been going on? But then I like what Vision did, because we know this town holds 3,000 people, and we only see like almost 10 or 20 cast members. So like, where are these other 3,000 other cast members that we're supposed to see? But then
they're just frozen in their yards.
Yeah, so I like how this gives that fill in the gap aspect, where we get told that in the center of the town where she lives, that's where people have the most consciousness, where people moves, where people have the jobs. In the outer, where Vision and where Agnes went, where is that when they're not being used or not being poured into the script or the cast, they're asleep in their bed, or they're barely awake, just standing around and just doing the barely any minimum. So I find that very interesting. I was very happy as a viewer to see that aspect as, okay, this town is way bigger than it is. And now it just became 10 times bigger. But 3,000 people finally know that they've been out in the scrim of the outskirts of town. But the inner is where they have the most consciousness. So I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, that is an excellent detail. And you're totally right. Watching Vision go from the center of the town out to the edge of the town. And like you said, we see people caught in a loop, like in the middle of town, because that's as much as she could control them, until finally he gets out to the very edge where they're just frozen because they're so far away from her that there's just no possible way she can make them do anything. Really, really creepy detail.
Yeah, this is where the writing gets really, really good for me.
Props to the writing.
Yeah, the writing's amazing because you empathize with Wanda. Like, again, I've said this before. This is someone that's been through extreme trauma. Like, she watched her parents die. She thought her and her brother were going to die. She falls in love. Her husband dies. Her brother dies. And this is all she has, right? But I love how the writing also shows you that there's still no real excuse for what she's doing to these people.
Right.
It's like, I was getting extreme Get Out vibes from this episode.
Yeah,
these people
totally
are stuck in the sunken place.
Especially
I love when
tear from that one woman.
exactly. I was just gonna say that. Like,
crying.
Vision just walks up, sees this lady, and she's just trying to put up this Halloween decoration thing, and she's just internally crying. She's suffering. There are thousands of people suffering, again with the kids too. Like,
But question.
you just have these kids docile in their beds until you feel like animating them for just to
horrifying.
go on with your narrative. That's psychotic, bro.
But do you think that those people are crying because of themselves, or crying because of that, but also Wanda suffering and depression herself? So do you think it's a mix of those two type of emotions being at the same time?
That's a great point. I think it's a mix.
It's a
I
mix.
definitely think, because when Monica came out of the hex and she was describing what it felt like to be under Wanda's control, she said it felt like pure grief. So she's tapping into all these people's brains and also exposing what she's feeling to them. So besides just being trapped, they're also experiencing her grief. So I definitely think it's a combo of both.
Yeah, it's really, really messed up because they're definitely feeling her feelings, but they're also trapped. Like, these people had lives and they can't do anything. Their free will has been stripped away from them.
Yeah.
Like, Wanda is doing a terrible thing, and Vision needs to stop her. Someone needs to stop her. And I'm very, very curious to see where this is going to go. Like, just watching Vision being on the outskirts and seeing these people that don't move, that don't talk at all. And then when he gets to Agnes and she starts losing it when she comes into consciousness, she's like, all is lost. She thinks all is lost because Wanda doesn't even let them think about escape.
How
She
do
won't
you
even
feel
allow them
about that
think.
scene though?
Yeah,
Do you think that she's acting, or do
Yes.
you think that she
I
was
was
actually
confused.
like under a spell?
So
So
I
I
was
think I
confused
think
myself
I want to
about
hear.
that.
I want to hear Vash.
go ahead, Vash.
I was confused about that because we have spoken about it before on the past couple of shows. Like, she's probably Agnes as the witch that worked for our boy Mephisto, but then now it looks like she's actually looks like she's in emotion, like in cry, like, hey, all is lost. So it's like either she's in a dual reality where she doesn't know who she is no more, or she understands who she is, but also is in conflict because of Wanda's powers are so strong. So it kind of makes her feel like she's actually part of town. And also, her telling Vision about the Avengers, oh, you're dead. So it kind of made Vision to question himself as well, like, wait, Avengers, who are Avengers? Oh, I came here to save you guys. I don't know who I am. So like, that conversation was so meta, but so informative for Vision. But I'm curious to know that when he went outside and screaming in pain, which we are going to talk about in a few, but is he going to remember all that he just found out about the Avengers or anything? Or is he going to get like a memory wipe to like Men in Black, just get a little snap,
find
like,
out.
hey. So like, so many questions, but I'm confused. Like, I don't know how to feel, if she's really Agnes, part of the town, or she's having a dual reality of who she don't really know who she is because how strong Wanda powers are.
I think she has way more agency than we are supposed to believe. Because in the last episode, the kids got Sparky, and then they found Agnes with Sparky dead, and she gives us a story as to how he died, but we don't know if that's true or not. And she could have very well have killed Sparky to accelerate the boy's growth, but then Wanda stopped them from doing that. Her conversation with Vision at the edge of the hex could very well be to instigate him to get to move outside of the hex, so Wanda expands the hex. So like, I feel like everything that she's doing, she's very aware, and she has motives, ulterior motives outside of the surface level what we see in the show. And I think that we're going to learn more about her in the last 3 episodes here. I think each episode's supposed to be an hour long, so I'm stoked about that.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited for extended episodes. And Chris, I agree with you completely with everything you just said. Like, I feel like she definitely has ulterior motives with everything that she's doing, and she's playing Vision to play Wanda in this moment.
Totally.
Like, she's definitely allowing him to make him think that he unlocked her brain, telling him that all is lost, telling him all of these different things to confront Wanda so that she can again expand the hex. Because this episode also confirms for me that at the end of this series, Wanda is going to expand the hex to the entire globe, and she is going to mutate everyone. Some people, much like the X gene, some people will be changed, some people won't. Now, this is the question I have for you guys. Do you think there's a possibility, and would you like to see Darcy get powers?
Is Darcy an original character, or is she from the comics?
She's an original character.
She's an original character, yeah.
I don't really know if. So this is my theory that just thought of right now. So to add to what James thought about the hex going around the world, I thought the same thing, because if the hex could expand, maybe it could go around all around the world. But then to contradict that, what happened if she becomes the villain in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness? What happened if she's actually not the co-partner with Doctor Strange in the movie, but she's actually the antagonist? But
I would say that's pretty likely.
Yeah, so with the way this is going, maybe she could become the antagonist. But to answer to what James is saying, I believe Darcy could get power, and if she does, she could become quick. I don't know if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the show, is going to be part of this universe, since it's technically 5 years later, and with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of became its own thing and everything. So if Darcy wants to become Quake, I don't mind that. Quake is a very strong character. Quake has worked with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Sword in the comics, and Quake has worked side by side with Nick Fury. So if Darcy becomes Quake, is the only thing I will find interesting. And Darcy could be connected with Inhumans or something like that, with some type of Quake powers, because Quake becomes Quake powers are from the Inhumans, and that could probably connect something like that and bring back.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily want her to have powers. I
same
think
here.
her character is unique and cool the way she is.
Agree.
I
just
agree.
thought it would be interesting now that we know that she's in the Hex. Like, could she be mutated in some way? But Chris, what do you think?
I'm not opposed to her having powers if it's done well, but I do appreciate the characters that are strictly human, because it shows in the MCU that you don't have to have superpowers to be extraordinary. You know, like the stuff that we've seen with Darcy and Agent Woo over the course of the show, even Monica right now, like we know that she's going to get superpowers, but like technically Monica is still a regular human right now. And they're totally capable. They're totally capable individuals. You know, we got to see Jimmy Woo and Monica kick some ass in this most recent episode. So I would rather Kat Dennings continue to play like a normal human who's still very much involved with the happenings of the MCU. But if it's done well, I wouldn't be opposed to her getting powers, I guess.
And plus, I'm happy that all the sword agents became clowns. That was hilarious. That they're all part of the circus. I wish
how Wanda receives them.
Yes, and I wish Commander Hayward became part of the Hex too, because I would love for him to get what he deserves. He's a dick, but I'm curious to know why is he have something against heroes? Because his line, he goes a bit emotional in that scene. So I wonder if he has something against heroes with that 5-year gap of Monica not being there and everything. Like, what is it? Because he feels like heroes are the ones that caused this with Thanos and everything. Is this what he has against heroes? Because he believes that they cause more harm than good. Because since he is the head chief and everything of Sword, he probably believes that they should be more powerful than the actual heroes. But also is questioning because he had Vision in pieces. So I'm curious to know is that was he happy that Vision was coming out because he wanted the parts back to Sword? Because he didn't seem so excited that Vision was coming out. He was happy that, he wants his own freedom. But at the same time, he looks more happy because he's like, hey, I'm getting my toy back that I was making weapons of. So that's what I felt like. How did you guys feel about that?
I definitely think you're onto something. Like, I really enjoyed that they're exploring two different perspectives here. One from someone who was snapped out of existence during the blip, and one who had to live through those 5 years with 50% of the Earth's population disappearing. So like Hayward's a dick and I do not like him, but he makes a lot of sense. And I feel like his feelings are justified considering that from his perspective, the Avengers failed and half of humanity got wiped out. So what are superpowered people worth to him? Nothing. You know, he, an average man, at least for what we know right now, we don't know if he's a Skrull or if superpowers or anything else. He's just a dude. Like, did the best that he could during those 5 years to try and keep humanity going, you know? So his argument with Monica in the middle of the episode where he tries to use those 5 years against her, I feel like is justified. I don't agree with a lot of his actions, but like I can see where he's coming from, you know? So I think it could be as simple as that. Like you said, Vash, like he probably just has a chip on his shoulder from having to live through those years because superpowered beings failed.
Yeah, I agree with you guys 1000%. Like, I think if I'm going along the track that Hayward is a human being, he is definitely justified in his feelings, like you guys already said. Like, for 5 years, they had to pull together any resources that they could because there was no like full team of Avengers to save the planet if everything went to shit. Like, it's Sword's responsibility to be the sword and shield for the entire planet. So he had to make do. And I definitely think that he was using Vision's body to experiment, to fight, to try to make weapons, to protect the planet. Definitely. So from that perspective, he's not wrong. You know what I mean? Like, we have to protect ourselves. Like, we can't just rely on these superpowered beings to do absolutely everything for us. Maybe he also feels jaded from Captain Marvel never coming back to try to help them. Right? It's been years.
She pissed off a lot of people by not coming back.
Yeah, it's been years since anyone saw her. What were they doing, right? Like, Thor was getting drunk. Captain America was, he was helping people, but the Avengers, they were active, but not on the level to his satisfaction, right?
And
because
that's
we know they were still doing stuff across the globe.
Right.
and that's the thing that I wish we see as like a mini series or like a 5 episode, like from the human side, from the whole civilians. What was it that when the heroes were doing saving other planets or other places around the world, but what was civilians? How did they feel? Like when it's just, oh, we just have like 6 heroes now instead of all 20 of them. What can we do? Cops are gone. A lot of the cops, a lot of the doctors, a lot of the firefighters, maybe the top doctors that were supposed to help cancer and everything are all gone. So like, what is it that most people that couldn't do? Some people that were supposed to have surgeries, but their doctor got disappear and blip. You can't have surgeries now, so it's like I'm really curious to know if we ever get that. And I saw in the chat about Jimmy Woo. Hopefully, we do get some type of story of him, like a miniseries, because I really like his character. His character is very entertaining. Like I really want more of him. And with Monica, I want them two to work together, and hopefully gets inductive into Sword, because I want more of his character. He's so entertaining. His chemistry with the cast has been so good.
I know on Twitter, a show is being pitched to Marvel that's like Jimmy Woo and Darcy, like an X-Files type show. Where
I hope so.
Investigating like oddities in the MCU. I'm all for
I'm
that.
on board.
Like,
a good
that would
5
be
episodes of
so
4,
awesome.
perfect.
Yeah, it would be great.
Again,
just
that would
like,
be a show where like it's just humans showing that they're exceptional within the MCU. Like you don't need superpowers. I think that'd be so cool.
yeah, I would love to see a series like that, just like a 5-6 episode mini series of just like 30-minute episodes. That would be dope. Like Darcy and Jimmy Woo would be, that would be so dope. But man, like I can't wait to see what's going to happen as the Hex expands, right? Because this was just the beginning. We're
Yeah.
going to see it expand even more over these next couple of episodes. But Chris, earlier on, you brought up the commercial, and I want to talk about that real quick. What did you guys think about the commercial? Like, the only way to survive is to snack on Yo Magic.
Right.
Like, what do you guys think that means? Like, do you think that that's a reference to Vision needing to drain Wanda of her powers in order to stop her? Do you think it has something to do with like a past trauma that showed up as a commercial? Like I've seen this in my head so many different ways. Like, is this like a reference to like Mephisto like stealing her powers potentially? Like, what do you guys think? I've been thinking about this for days.
So for
I know
me,
Vash, go for it.
I was gonna say for me real quick, because I think it's a reference for our boy is Billy Powers. I think it is about his powers, because that commercial happened in the mid, and right after that we got the powers of Tommy and Billy. So I think like you got trust in your powers, like your magic, like the sons. So like that's what I felt like is for the kids getting the powers, and you got trust in them. That's what I think is you gotta survive within your powers. You gotta trust your powers is what I felt like I was trying to get at.
I think from my perspective, the commercial is talking about magic being consumed by an entity. So like the way I read the commercial is the shark is some type of malevolent being. And it almost seems like either Wanda or like you said, Vash, maybe one of the boys, maybe Billy's powers are being sapped, but it seems like she's made some type of like Faustian deal with this like malevolent entity. And I know I keep pushing Mephisto and Nightmare a lot. I still am not 100% convinced that that's going to be the case. But like the commercial, the product is Yo Magic, and the tagline is the snack for survivors. And basically the kid on the island makes a deal with this malevolent shark to get something, right? But then something's taken away from him. He's not even able to open the yogurt. His life is completely drained, and he ends up dying before he can even open it. So I think we're away from past traumas now, and I definitely think the commercials are starting to represent things that have either, well, maybe not, we're not fully out of the woods in terms of past things, but we're getting closer to the present. Like, I think this commercial could represent something that's happened recently, maybe just before we entered the show as the audience. You know, like whatever type of deal Wanda has made with some sinister character before the show started, I think that's what this commercial is referencing. Like, someone has made her stronger so she can use her magic, and they can consume that magic so they can survive. You know, but that's just what I took away from it. James, what about you?
Yeah, that's pretty much like what I came like that's the conclusion that I came up to, right? Like I had a bunch of different theories and it's like, no, this makes sense, especially when you tag in the line of dialogue from Pietro where he asks her straight up like, how did you even do all of this? And she doesn't remember. She just remembers being in the darkest depths of despair, and
Right.
then she created this world. So in the darkest depths of despair, devils come to visit you to grant you your
Oh,
wishes.
totally.
You know what I mean? So it's like I think it's definitely something like that. And then that entity is feeding all off of the magical power that she's giving off within the hex, which is why when the hex takes over the entire planet, that's when I think this entity will reveal itself, and then we'll find out even more information. But I
Yeah.
love these commercials. They're so telling. You have to pay attention to all of the dialogue, all of the visuals, and it's just great storytelling, man. Like it's amazing.
Yeah, and Mephisto's a character who's been known to do stuff like that. You know,
Mhm.
in Spider-Man's One More Day, Aunt May dies,
Ooh.
and Mephisto's like, "Hey, I can bring Aunt May back, but you're going to have to give up your relationship with Mary Jane. That's what I want in return." So it's typically a trade with these types of characters, and usually what you're getting isn't always worth what you're giving, you know, or there's some type of trick involved to it. So I'm excited to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, for sure. Next thing that I wanted to talk about was, why do you think that Vision was being torn apart when he exited the Hex? So I'm thinking that whatever magic was used to create this pocket dimension, whatever magic was used to give Wanda this extra boost of power, is tied to Vision. So Vision has to stay within the Hex for, I guess, the contract to remain complete, if you will. Like, how did you guys take that?
Right.
So how I felt
Gotcha.
like I said earlier, Vision was already torn apart from Hayward. So he was put together because of Wanda with her magic, but not put together like Stark, like Bruce, like he was not put back together in a robotic way with magic that Wanda did. So him being outside of the hex, he's just getting torn apart because he's not put back together. So he cannot walk without her magic at the moment. That's what I saw and believe, because Hayward was just more happy to see him being torn apart. He didn't go and try to help him already because he knew that he's already torn into pieces in when he's outside.
That's what I thought originally as well. But the reason why it doesn't work for me is because we know everything that's changed in the hex, it still remains changed outside of it. So why does he start to become pulled apart? You know what I mean? Like we've seen so many references of that. We've seen how Monica's body has been mutated and changed on a molecular level. We've seen her uniform that was Kevlar changed into the it was the 80s clothes, 70s clothes, right?
The 70s
The
close.
70s clothes, and it stayed that way. The rope, the tether that was sent into the hex, it came out, and it's still a jump rope. So to me, it still shows that anything that's changed in the hex, once it leaves the hex, it remains exactly like that. So that's why I couldn't get on board with, well, he's leaving the hex, therefore the power is wearing off and he's falling apart. But it could be that. It just doesn't work for me because we've seen evidence to the contrary. Like, Chris, what do you think?
I think I land somewhere right in between both of you. Like, I definitely think that if Wanda has made a deal, Vision is at the center of that deal. Like, she wanted to bring him back to life because of how much she loved him, right? And she was tired of being alone. But to Vash's point, I do think him leaving the Hex kind of starts to revert him back to the state that he was in prior to Wanda kidnapping him and bringing him to Westview. So like I said, I'm not like one way or the other, but a kind of like a combo of what both of you are proposing here. Uh, I don't know, man. It's so weird with what's going on with Vision. Like I can't tell if Wanda is powering him or what.
But thing is
So
to add is that was he being breaking apart or being pulled back into the hex? Because the
right,
way it seemed like he was being pulled back, like his pieces, it just looked like it was extremely painful being pulled back.
right.
But at the same time, it looked like he was never really being torn apart. Like it doesn't look like he was more in pain because he looked like he wanted to get out. but not really being brought back. He doesn't want to get pulled back into the hex. He wants to escape. He wants to get his memories back. So like that's why I felt like his type of pain and that type of agony is what I felt like. Not like, hey, I'm being hurt. Can you guys help me? It's more like he wants to escape the hex, that type of prison, instead of being pulled back.
And it's really tough to say exactly what's going on, because in terms of like how the hex works and what we've been studying and what we know about it over the last 6 episodes, like James, you're absolutely right. Most things that come out of the hex have maintained their integrity and just exist as they were in the hex. But in this instance, we're getting some new information here. The hex is reacting in an uncharacteristic way that we haven't seen before. So it might be like Vision specific, like you said. He might be tied to the hex in some way, James. So that's why it's like pulling him back in. But I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know either. But that's just like the strongest theory that I landed on. Because when you think about it, Wanda didn't even know he was being pulled back in. She didn't even feel it.
Right. Billy was
so it's like, exactly. So that leads me to believe Wanda wasn't even pulling him in. There's something with the hex. There's something with the deal that was made. Vision is tied to it, and that's why he was being physically pulled back in. And Vision is going to keep trying to escape, and that's why Wanda has to expand the hex to the entire planet, because there's nothing you can do. You can't escape if the hex covers the entire planet. So this episode, it just brings up so much. Like, I just want to move on to another thing real quick. When Monica says that her guy is on the way to help them get back into the hex,
Which
now there's a lot of theories going around now that her colleague, the person that she's talking about, could be Reed Richards. I don't know if I buy it, but it could make sense that he's the engineer that she's talking about. Like we talked about before, it could be Blue Marvel,
right,
that she's talking about. You know what I mean? But maybe it would make more sense if it's Reed Richards. But I don't know. What do you guys think? There's a lot of theories as to who she's talking about.
If it
I don't
is
think we have enough evidence to say exactly who it is. Like,
right,
totally could be Reed Richards. I think it would make more sense if it was Blue Marvel. I don't know if Kevin Feige would introduce Reed Richards in this way.
Exactly.
So I'm still up in the air in terms of like who it is. I just don't have enough evidence to say one way or the other. Vash, what about you?
Like Chris just said, it's hard to bring up who it could be. But at the same time, if it is Reed Richards, if it is Blue Marvel, I gotta give props to the team on Marvel to keep this type of secret like hidden, like not being leaked and anything. Because for you to say is Reed Richards or anybody like a big name, that's a big opportunity on who is like, that's a leak where every type of news outlet article wants to talk about, and it's just huge. If it's Reed, this would be interesting because it will make the idea of the first episode or second episode when Monica came out and she spoke about the astronauts in space and everything, then that will make sense of how Sword is connected, then Reed and everything. So if that's connected, then it makes sense. But then how they're gonna introduce Doom, like I'm really curious to know how's everything gonna be introduced. So, and if it is Reed, this must be before they get the powers, before they get the cosmic powers as well.
Right.
So it's very curious to know how they're gonna introduce everything, since Marvel is their own what if already with the whole MCU. So if they don't go by the whole comic source material, it's fine. Hopefully a lot of people don't get mad. But at the same time, it just depends what route they're gonna take. So who is? There's also Ant-Man. Ant-Man knows how to build stuff too. There's
I mean, he's not an engineer though.
Right,
so
he's not
sorry,
an
but
aerospace
not
engineer.
him, but the original Ant-Man.
Hank Pym.
Yeah, Hank Pym. He knows how to engineer stuff, and he knows how to go into quantum realms. So
But I don't think
goes
he's an aerospace engineer specifically.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm just putting other scientists out there that just in
It's
case
really
could build.
Yeah, I mean the third option is like it's nobody. You know,
Yeah.
like
It just
the
be out of
next
shock or
episode,
left
she's like,
field.
I'm going to meet my guy up on the hill, and then the next time we see her, it's her and Jimmy Woo just like driving that truck we saw in the trailers. Like we might not even get to see the person that she's meeting. So
Because that's so true. Because when you go to talk to a guy, when you go with friends, like, hey, I'm gonna go meet my guy. Like most people be like, oh, that's probably a drug dealer out there, but we never know who the guy is. They're like, oh, you met the guy? Like, yeah, but he's already long gone. I'm like, but you're not going to introduce me to the guy. So what Chris just said is totally true, because she said, my guy. We don't have to meet this guy. We can literally go, hey, I got the car. And we could see a random hand and probably a name tag or something. And just the person just went off.
Yeah, I hope it's not Reed. I think we're too early on in Phase 4 to introduce a character to Phase 5. But on the opposite of that, I think it would be really cool to have these characters fleshed out before they even get their powers, so that we're already so like attached to them already, and then when they get their powers, it's like, holy shit, that's really cool. But like chat, I really hope it's Blue Marvel. I think it would be a really cool deep cuts reference to bringing that character. It would also bring in some diversity. And to what Pedro said, maybe Wanda didn't realize that Vision was being pulled back in because Pietro was distracting her. I didn't even think of that. I was like, you know what? Because if we go on with the theory that Pietro isn't actually Pietro, it would make sense that she's being distracted so that Vision is outside enough to force Wanda to expand the hex even more.
Yeah, he's meant to be an agent of chaos. Mm-hmm. So I think distracting her is totally what he could have been doing.
But then why did she need to ask her son Billy to know where is he if she cannot feel him outside of the hex? Like, why does she need confirmation for her son?
I think it's because Billy was already connected. So just getting Billy to focus, just to see where Vision was easier than her trying to do it, so that she can then focus on using her magic to expand the barrier. That's just what I think.
That makes sense. But are we done with the episode? Because I also want to talk about theories for the next episodes.
Was there anything else that you guys wanted to bring up?
Yes, one last thing. We got mention of Monica's blood work in this episode, and how the hex has now transmuted her DNA twice. So this is definitely leading to Photon, I think. Mm-hmm. Like, without a doubt at this point, like, this is going to be how she gets her powers.
Oh yeah,
and based on the trailers, if she's going through the hex one more time, and I think it's safe to say that she will be, that would have to be either a third time or a third and fourth time going in and coming out that her DNA is going to be rewritten. Because you have to think about it.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, like, if you're going in and the hex isn't torn down while you're in there, you're going to have to come out as well. Because we already know that Monica only went in and out, and that's twice that her DNA was changed. So Darcy at this point as well, she's had her DNA changed once. Will the hex drop down, or will she have to reemerge from the hex as well and get her DNA changed twice? So those are kind of the things that I've been thinking about in terms of Monica's character.
Yeah, I can't wait for her to get her powers. I think the actress does a really good job.
She's great.
I can't wait to see her in Captain Marvel 2. I definitely think she'll have her powers by then. And I would love to see them fighting side by side, and also having that confrontation of, where have you been all of these years? Why didn't you come see my mom while she was literally dying of cancer? Yeah. And to Carol's point, I mean, how could she know? Because she was saving the entire galaxy. Like, she took the responsibility on herself to use her amazing abilities to help people that can't help themselves throughout the entire galaxy. But there's still friends and family, people that love you and care about you, that you should check in on. And she hasn't been there in years. So that's definitely something I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see Photon and Captain Marvel versus whatever villain they're adding in to that movie.
Well, I'm so curious because the chat said as well, what happened if Hayward is working with Ross? That could also be interesting as well. Because Ross also has a hatred against heroes, Bruce, Tony Stark, he also has the hatred for it. So maybe it's possible as well that he is or was working Hayward, or maybe they have the same type of feelings against heroes as well. So Chan also said that.
I don't know if Ross has the same type of hatred though, because he has been trying to create super soldiers for decades. So that's what happened with Abomination. Like, he was trying to recreate the super soldier program. That's how Bruce Banner got his abilities, because he was like bankrolling that whole experiment to try and recreate the super soldier program. He's like obsessed with Captain America and trying to make his own super soldiers.
Whereas he wants to control them, but he wants to control those heroes. Hayward has more of a because he doesn't know like what is she doing. Like he doesn't know, so he's more feared, not scared. Like he's more feared of her.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. This episode was amazing. Like there was just, again, like I said, there was just so much to unpack. I had to watch this episode like 3 times because there's just so many things that you can miss. Like what was his name? The black neighbor that was dressed as Frankenstein. Like
Herb.
I love Herb. Yeah, that's his name. I love how he's like, do you want me to try that differently?
Yeah.
You want me to do that
Yeah,
again?
he is also totally aware of what's going on. That because this is not the first time we've seen him kind of break her spell.
Yeah. Also, another thing, I'm glad that we were on this topic now. Maybe I'm misinterpreting this, but he was getting information about things that didn't even happen yet. Or
I did speak about that.
Did it happen in
Vash
other
did talk
parts
about
of the...
that. Vash was saying that like it was happening in that way because it was kind of paying homage to Malcolm in the Middle type sitcoms.
Yes.
Right. Because I was like,
That was
well,
weird though.
Is it happening in other parts of Westview and people are reporting it? And because Speed and Quicksilver are so fast, they seem like they're in multiple spots.
That could
But
totally
just
be it.
threw me off for a second. I'm like, why is he reporting things that haven't happened yet?
Right.
So he says it and then it happens. But it could be because he's getting information from another part of Westview.
Right.
That has happened a lot in the show Malcolm in the Middle, so that's why I actually made that reference before, because that has happened where they broke something, but they didn't break it. You say, hey, why did you break the TV? But then like 2 seconds later, they broke the TV. So stuff in that style of the sitcom has happened before. That's why. Like,
That's right.
So it played very much in that tone. But also,
it's been years since I've seen that show.
Totally understandable. But me and Chris did talk about before that the 2 movies that they also made reference to was Parent Trap and plus The Incredibles. In the theater behind Wanda, Pietro, and them. So that's also very curious to know. And it makes sense because Incredibles is a family of heroes, and Parent Trap, you're trapped because of your parents, aka Wanda herself.
And it's also a twin movie.
Yes,
twin movie as well.
I was just gonna bring that up. It's also a twin movie, and we also have one twin that was switched out, if you will.
Right.
So there's a lot of references, man. I absolutely love this episode in every level possible. Like watching Wiccan and Speed use their powers. Like Speed starts running around and Wanda uses her hex powers to stop him in his tracks.
Like stop.
Wiccan does the same thing when he hears Vision and the Sword Agents. I thought
you're right.
Amazing, bro. Yeah. Oh man, this show is just so good. I can't wait for these next 3 episodes. What?
I would watch a sitcom with them as a family. Like I'm not gonna lie, I really like this episode. If there's a sitcom that just followed them, I'd watch it.
So that's my curious. So this is kind of like theory that we know each episode now is going to be 1 hour long. So next episode is going to be the whole 2000 era. The second to last episode is going to be the 2010s. Then obviously the last episode is going to be the year of 2023 that they are in that whole decade. But I'm curious to know is that in the 2000 era episode next week, what is it that they're going to do? Because the most popular during that era was Modern Family as well.
It's going to be Modern Family. I think they've already confirmed that it's Modern Family. There are even clips of Wanda speaking directly to the camera.
Yes, of her saying that I have the feelings of the Mondays or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's a case of the Mondays.
Yeah, the case of Mondays. So yeah, you're right, because I feel like Modern Family will be either next episode or the 8th episode, but makes sense that is the 7th episode. So it's very exciting to know.
I suspect that because each of these episodes is going to be an hour long, next episode is probably going to be partially Modern Family, and then we're going to get into regular MCU for the remaining 2.5 episodes. At least from interviews that I've watched with like Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen, it seems like we're reaching the point where we're going full-blown MCU. Paul Bettany even said that the last 3 episodes are like a full MCU movie. So I think we're getting back into the present day. I honestly don't know how much we're going to see of Modern Family, especially with the way their family dynamic is starting to break down. Now that Vision has experienced the outside of the Hex, he had that conversation with Agnes. Pietro's getting really antagonistic and saying things that are upsetting Wanda. Like, I think the sitcom portion is at its end because everyone involved, she just cannot control anymore. So
And plus,
those are my predictions.
and then plus with her trying to expand more, she's gonna lose control much faster because she cannot contain the whole force now. And probably animals, more of these clowns, aka the sword agents, being involved now, so she has to control them as well. So it's like much harder for her to control every single person now, and to kind of give everybody a role. But I think the whole type of sitcom route is gonna end in episode 8, halfway, because that's in the 2010 type of era, and I think around with the whole Office, I think it's gonna be involving that as well. And I think that's because I haven't seen much of the Office, but I know that it does a bit for breaking. And I think in that type of episode is when it's gonna break the whole type of sitcom dynamic. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Very possible.
I am really looking forward to see how Vision reacts to this, because it's obvious that Wanda can no longer alter his memories, like past what she's erased. Like I think I don't know how Vision is going to react to this. It's like I tried to step outside and I couldn't. Something pulled me back in, and he's going to blame Wanda. And I think that they're like Agnes and Mephisto, whoever it is obviously trying to put a rift between these two characters.
You just reminded me of something that Elizabeth Olsen said during an interview with Collider, Perry Nemiroff from Collider. She said they were having a conversation about clean slates versus blank slates in terms of where Wanda is at the beginning of the show. And when you said that Wanda was erasing Vision's memory, is she? Or were they both just plopped into this world with totally blank slates? Because like we know now that Vision can't remember anything from before Westview. And we also know that Wanda doesn't know how she started, how all this started, how she started doing this with her powers. So I think both of them could potentially be in the same boat where they don't remember anything from before Westview, but they're kind of getting at each other's throats because the true villain hasn't been revealed yet. You know, the true culprit who's causing this to take place.
I see that being true.
Until you just said that, James.
Chris,
But
I see that. Chris, I see that being true a lot, because what James just said about last week's episode, where Wanda didn't even know how Pietro came. So for her to not even know, and she's the one that's causing most of this, it shows and proves that there's an other person that's really doing this. When Wanda herself said, I don't know where the children are, but then this week episode, children pop out of nowhere. So it's like questions there, like who's really the antagonist? Who's the one that's pulling the strings? And who really likes strings? And that is Tech Mephisto. Again, guys, we don't know, but we're just saying a lot of theories about Mephisto.
Yeah. I just want to know, like, what did Wanda have to sacrifice to get this? And she obviously doesn't remember doing it. She doesn't even remember what that sacrifice could be. Man, there's just so many possibilities for this show. And I can't wait for Friday so that we can see episode 7. And
I think
like,
all
just-
I can guarantee at this point is that the end of the show is going to be heartbreaking.
Oh, yeah.
We're not going to get a happy ending at the very end of this show. I guarantee it. And I don't know any inside information or anything like that, but like my prediction is things are going to end badly for everyone.
Yeah, I agree completely, because I think that's why it goes into Spider-Man 3, why it goes into Multiverse of Madness. Like, it doesn't end here. This is the beginning of whatever this arc is going to be about. This is just the beginning, and I can't wait to see where it goes.
And plus, it really questions that if the hex really goes around the world, how did it affect Spider-Man Homecoming if Spider-Man Homecoming was supposed to be 6 months later after Endgame?
Far From Home?
Yeah, sorry. Far From Home. So, like, it questions is, like, what was the alternative? Like, was it Mephisto? Was it Mysterio? Like, all these things really real? So it just makes you question, like, you probably have to rewatch Far From Home to actually know what was really real or not. So it's really curious to know how is everything going to intertwine.
I would think that J. Jonah Jameson's appearance at the end of that movie is probably the smallest thing that we get in terms of how the hex is affecting that movie. I do think that Spider-Man Far From Home taking place 8 months after WandaVision is something that they had to retcon a little bit. So that's why we're not seeing like the full effects of how the hex is affecting the world until the next Spider-Man movie with like Doc Ock and Electro coming back and stuff like that. But I think it can still work if, say, J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson is a part of these multiverses converging into the one. So I think it could still work. We'll find out, though.
Pedro, thanks for the heads up. Yeah, I mean, we love spoilers. Honestly, like we go looking for that shit sometimes. Like just like the entire script for episode 6 leaked like days before.
Yeah,
and Chris sent it to me, and I read like half of it. And then when I watched the episode for the first time, I was actually following the Reddit script. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
When I watched it, I was like, oh, that script was verbatim.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that was definitely the real script.
Yeah, they got to tighten up, man. Like, this is ridiculous. You cannot allow these types of leaks. But any final thoughts before we head out for the night?
I enjoy WandaVision so much. I enjoy what's happening with the series. I can't wait to see how we feel by the time we watch episode 7 and 8 and be like, yo, what the hell's gonna happen in episode 9? Like, I don't know, could be left, right, up, down, crisscross. So like, so many possibilities. And chat, I appreciate you guys being here every single week and to have a full discussion with us all the time, because it just brings a lot of theories, a lot of discussions that we didn't even bring up sometimes, and you guys help out. But I enjoy doing this news all the time. And WandaVision, so many comic book reference, and I can't wait to see what else sitcoms reference they do as well in the 2000s. And if they do more, can't wait to see what they do with the 10s and the current era we're in right now for that decade. Yeah. So I'm really curious to know what they do. Chris?
Well, wait, quick pause, because we have a very special guest in chat, guys. Mephisto himself is in chat getting ready to steal Wanda's kids. Mephisto, if you're going to steal those kids, please let us know in advance. We would love the inside scoop. Please tell us what your plans are for the Hex. We would love that. Thanks. DM us.
I really want to know where the show's going. If you could just tell me how it ends right now.
But I'm really curious to know who does that. Any final thoughts?
No, like Vash, I'm super excited to see where the show goes. We are definitely in the third act of the series. And as we know, when it comes to writing scripts and filmmaking, like this is where shit gets crazy. So I'm super excited for next week's episode and the 2 after that.
Yeah, I can't wait. Chris, tell the people where they can find you online and what Popaholics has planned for the month of February.
Yeah, so you can find my personal account at Chris Conkling on Twitter, where I ramble about movies and toys and video games and everything that I love. And in terms of Popaholics, we're actually going to be having James and Vash on the show next week. And we're going to be talking about Tom King's Vision, which I'm super excited. But you can follow Popaholics on Twitter at Popaholics, on Instagram at PopaholicsCast, and of course on Facebook at Popaholics as well. Oh, and we now have a YouTube channel at Popaholics. You might want to click our link in all of our posts, because if you type in Popaholics to YouTube, you are going to get something very different. It's a whole other thing. But yeah, follow us at Popaholics on social media.
Vash, where can the people find you?
Find me at Legendary Vash everywhere else, Twitter, IG. I just got engaged this past weekend, so it's a huge accomplishment for myself and everything. It was unexpected, so it's a great accomplishment. And found Anime Lately, where you see James, myself every Thursdays evenings, and us on Fridays evenings. So definitely check us out. I gladly appreciate how much support you guys have been giving us on this channel and every week for Villains, and how much you've been here on the chat, guys. We appreciate it very much, because I know how much happy it makes James and myself every single week for you guys being here. Thank you.
Yeah, we can't wait to be on the Popaholics podcast. That's going to be so much fun. I highly recommend checking out Tom King's The Vision. It is available technically for free on Comixology. You can read all 12 issues. So if you're a Prime member, download Comixology, log in, and you can read all 12 issues for free. It's awesome. Guys, thank you as always for being here. Like I say every single week, you guys make these episodes for me. I love talking to you guys in chat, so thank you so much for being here. Please follow me on Twitter at JBExclusive, where I talk about random movie stuff, random TV stuff, and of course at C4 Spoilers, where we drop movie news, gaming news, TV news every single day. And yeah, tune in this Friday. We're going to be having Villains episode 6 on Friday to talk about WandaVision episode 7. It's just going to be Vash and I on that episode, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, guys, thanks again so much for being here, and we will see you guys on the next one.